A young black girl named Mia notices a homeless woman, Elizabeth, shivering on a cold day. Feeling compassion, Mia offers her cherished scarf to the woman, turning what could have been a lonely moment into a heartwarming act of kindness. What Mia doesn't realize is that her small gesture will lead to life-changing consequences far beyond what anyone could have imagined. So, how does Mia's generosity transform the situation? And what surprising turn of events does it lead to? Stick around to find out. But before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy this tale, don't forget to subscribe. In the quaint town of Willowbrook, where the streets were lined with maple trees and the air always smelled of fresh-baked bread, lived a little girl named Mia. At just 8 years old, Mia had already made quite a name for herself as the kindest soul in town. Her warm brown eyes sparkled with joy whenever she helped someone, and her infectious smile could light up even the gloomiest of days. Mia lived with her parents, James and Tanya, in a cozy blue house at the end of Cherry Lane. Every morning, she would skip down the front steps, her colorful backpack bouncing against her shoulders, ready to spread kindness wherever she went. "Remember, Mia," her father would often say, kneeling down to her level, "a little kindness can change someone's whole day." Mia would nod solemnly, taking these words to heart. "I know, Daddy. That's why I always share my lunch with Tommy, even though he never remembers his." Her mother would chuckle, ruffling Mia's curly hair. "That's our girl, always thinking of others." It wasn't just her parents who had instilled this sense of compassion in Mia. Her grandmother, Nana Rose, was a pillar of the community, known for her volunteer work at the local shelter. Mia idolized her Nana, often accompanying her on her rounds, handing out warm meals and kind words to those in need. On Mia's last birthday, Nana Rose had given her a special gift, a beautiful, hand-knitted scarf in shades of purple and gold. "This scarf is magic, my dear," Nana had whispered, wrapping it gently around Mia's neck. "It has the power to warm not just your body but your heart too. Wear it, and remember to always spread that warmth to others." Mia treasured that scarf, wearing it every day, rain or shine. She would run her fingers over the intricate patterns, imagining her Nana's love woven into every stitch. One crisp autumn day, as the leaves crunched beneath their feet and the wind whistled through the trees, Mia and her mother set out for their weekly trip to the farmer's market. The town was bustling with activity, people hurrying to and fro, their breaths visible in the chilly air. "Look, Mommy!" Mia exclaimed, pointing to a group of children jumping in a pile of leaves. Their laughter echoed down the street, a joyful soundtrack to the morning. Tanya smiled, squeezing her daughter's hand. "It's nice to see people having fun, isn't it?" As they walked, Mia waved to Mr. Johnson, the baker, who was setting out fresh loaves in a shop window. The warm, yeasty smell made her stomach growl. "Can we get some bread, Mommy?" "Please." "Maybe on the way back, sweetie. We don't want the vegetables to get cold while we shop." They passed by the town square, where a group of elderly men were engaged in a heated game of chess. Mia giggled as she overheard one of them accusing another of cheating. "No way, George. That knight can't move like that." The town was full of these little pockets of warmth. Neighbors chatting over fences, kids racing their bikes down the sidewalk, couples walking hand in hand. But as they turned the corner on a maple street, the scene changed dramatically. There, on a bench outside the old library, sat a woman Mia had never seen before. She was hunched over, her thin frame shaking with each gust of wind. Her clothes were tattered and dirty, full of holes that let the cold seep in. A few stringy strands of gray hair peeked out from under a worn-out hat. Mia stopped in her tracks, her eyes wide. "Mommy," she whispered, tugging on her mother's sleeve. "Look at that lady. She looks so cold." Tanya glanced at the woman, a mix of concern and wariness crossing her face. "Yes, honey. Sometimes people fall on hard times and don't have a warm place to stay." But Mia wasn't listening anymore. Without hesitation, she let go of her mother's hand and approached the bench. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said softly. The woman looked up, her blue eyes cloudy with age and fatigue. She seemed startled to see someone addressing her directly. "Yes, child." Her voice was raspy, as if she hadn't used it in a long time. Mia didn't hesitate. She unwrapped the scarf from around her neck, the scarf her Nana had given her, and held it out to the woman. Here, you look cold. This scarf is magic. It'll keep you warm. The woman stared at Mia, then at the scarf, her eyes filling with tears. Oh, sweetheart, I couldn't possibly. But Mia was already draping it around the woman's shoulders, tucking it in gently. There, she said with a satisfied nod. Now you'll be nice and warm. The woman touched the soft wool, her fingers trembling. A tear slipped down her weathered cheek. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. Mia beamed, her heart swelling with the joy of helping someone. She turned to her mother, expecting to see pride on her face. Instead, Tanya looked worried. Mia, she said, her voice low as she pulled her daughter aside. That was very kind of you, but we don't know this woman. It might not be safe to talk to strangers like that. Mia frowned, confused. But Mommy, she was cold, and you and Daddy always say we should help people in need. Tanya sighed, torn between pride in her daughter's compassion and concern for her safety. I know, sweetie, and it was a wonderful thing you did. But next time, maybe we should find a safer way to help. Okay. Mia nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she had done the right thing. As they walked away, she turned back to wave at the woman. The homeless lady was still sitting there, but now she was wrapped in the colorful scarf, a small smile on her face as she waved back. That night, as Tanya tucked Mia into bed, she couldn't help but marvel at her daughter's pure heart. You know, Mia, she said, smoothing the blanket, I'm very proud of what you did today. Your kindness is a beautiful thing. Mia yawned, snuggling into her pillow. I just did what Nana Rose would have done. Do you think the magic scarf will help keep that lady warm tonight? Tanya kissed her daughter's forehead. I'm sure it will, sweetheart, and not just because of the wool. Your kindness will keep her warm, too. As Mia drifted off to sleep, she imagined her scarf wrapped around the woman, glowing with warmth and love. She didn't know it then, but that simple act of kindness would set in motion a chain of events that would change not just one life, but the entire town of Willowbrook. The morning sun peeked through the curtains of Mia's bedroom, casting a warm glow on her colorful walls. As her alarm clock chimed, Mia stirred, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. It was a school day just like any other, but something felt different in the air. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but there was a strange mixture of excitement and unease swirling in her tummy. Sitting up in bed, Mia stretched her arms high above her head, her curly hair a wild mess around her face. She glanced at the empty hook on her bedroom door where her special scarf usually hung. For a moment, she felt a pang of sadness, remembering the kind homeless lady she had given it to yesterday. But then she smiled, imagining how warm and cozy the woman must have been last night. Mia, honey, time to get ready for school, her mother's voice called from downstairs. Coming, Mom, Mia replied, hopping out of bed. She went about her usual morning routine, brushing her teeth, making sure to count to 60 like her dentist taught her, combing her unruly hair, which never seemed to want to behave, and picking out her favorite polka dot dress for school. As she tied her shoelaces, she couldn't shake the feeling that today was going to be different somehow. Downstairs, the kitchen was filled with the aroma of pancakes and the sound of the morning news on the radio. Mia's father, James, was at the stove, flipping pancakes with expert precision, while her mother, Tanya, was packing Mia's lunch. Good morning, Pumpkin, James said, sliding a stack of pancakes onto Mia's plate. Sleep well? Mia nodded, drowning her pancakes in syrup. But I had a funny dream about the lady I gave my scarf to. We were having a tea party with Mr. Whiskers. Mr. Whiskers was the neighborhood cat that often lounged on the front porch. Tanya and James exchanged a quick glance, their smiles faltering for just a moment. That sounds like a nice dream, Tanya said, placing Mia's lunchbox on the table. Eat up now, or we'll be late for school. As Mia munched on her pancakes, she noticed her parents seemed a bit distracted. They kept looking at each other and then at her, as if they wanted to say something but weren't sure how. Just as Mia was about to ask what was wrong, there was a sharp knock at the front door. The sound echoed through the house, making everyone jump. Who could that be at this hour? James wondered aloud, wiping his hands on a dish towel. Tanya shrugged, looking equally puzzled. I'll get it, she said, heading for the door. Mia craned her neck, trying to see past her mother as she opened the door. Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw two police officers standing on their front porch. One was a tall man with a kind face and graying hair at his temples. The other was a younger woman with short blonde hair and a gentle smile. "Good morning, ma'am," the male officer said, his voice deep and reassuring. "I'm Officer Johnson, and this is my partner, Officer Rivera. We're sorry to disturb you so early, but we need to speak with your daughter, Mia. Is she home?" Tanya's hand flew to her chest, her face paling. "Mia? But why? Has something happened?" Officer Rivera stepped forward, her voice soft and calming. "There's no need to worry, Mrs. Thompson. We just need to ask Mia a few questions about an incident that occurred yesterday. May we come in?" Tanya hesitated for a moment, then nodded, stepping aside to let the officers enter. James had come to stand in the doorway of the kitchen, his brow furrowed with concern. "What's this about?" he asked, his arm instinctively going around Mia's shoulders as she peeked out from behind him. Officer Johnson removed his hat, holding it respectfully in his hands. "Sir, ma'am, we're investigating a situation involving a homeless woman who was found unresponsive early this morning. We have reason to believe your daughter might have some information that could help us." Mia's eyes grew wide, and she tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, is this about the lady I gave my scarf to?" The officer's attention immediately focused on Mia. Officer Rivera knelt down to Mia's level, her smile warm and encouraging. "That's right, sweetie. We'd like to talk to you about that lady. Is that okay?" Mia looked up at her parents, who nodded encouragingly, though she could see the worry in their eyes. "Okay," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. They all moved to the living room, Mia perching on the edge of the sofa between her parents, while the officers sat in the armchairs across from them. The room felt smaller somehow, the air thick with tension. "Mia," Officer Johnson began, his voice gentle, "can you tell us about the woman you met yesterday? The one you gave your scarf to?" Mia took a deep breath, twisting the hem of her dress in her fingers. She was sitting on a bench outside the library. She looked really cold and sad. Her clothes had holes in them, and she was shaking. "I just wanted to help her get warm." Officer Rivera nodded encouragingly. "That was very kind of you, Mia. Can you remember anything else about her? Did she say anything to you?" Mia scrunched up her face, thinking hard. "She said thank you when I gave her the scarf. And," she paused, remembering, her eyes were really blue, like the sky. But they looked sad too. The officers exchanged a glance, and Officer Johnson leaned forward slightly. "Mia, the reason we're here is because that woman was found early this morning. She passed away during the night." Mia's eyes filled with tears, and she felt her mother's arm tighten around her. "She died? But I gave her my magic scarf. It was supposed to keep her warm." Officer Rivera quickly moved to reassure her. "Oh, sweetie, you didn't do anything wrong. In fact, what you did was incredibly important." Mia looked up, sniffling. "It was—" Officer Johnson nodded solemnly. "We found a note with the woman. It was addressed to you, Mia." A hush fell over the room. James and Tanya exchanged surprised looks, while Mia's eyes grew wide with wonder. "To me? But how did she know my name?" Officer Rivera reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "May I?" she asked Mia's parents. When they nodded, she began to read. "To the little angel who gave me her scarf, I don't know your name, but I will never forget your kindness. For years, I've been invisible to this town, just another shadow on the street. But you saw me. You didn't just see a homeless woman. You saw a person who was cold and needed help. Your scarf kept me warm last night, warmer than I've been in years. But it wasn't just the wool that warmed me. It was the knowledge that there are still good people in this world, people like you who care about strangers. I'm sick, little one. I've known for a while that I don't have much time left. But because of you, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm going to sleep tonight wrapped in your kindness. And whatever happens, I know the world is a little bit better because you're in it. Thank you for reminding me what it feels like to be human again. With all my gratitude, Elizabeth." As Officer Rivera finished reading, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Mia was crying quietly, overwhelmed by the impact of her small act of kindness. Her parents held her close, their own tears falling silently. Mia, Officer Johnson said softly, what you did wasn't just kind. It was the last bit of comfort this woman felt in her life. You made her last moments peaceful and full of hope. That's an incredible thing. Mia wiped her eyes, her voice shaky. I just wanted to help. I didn't know it would mean so much. Officer Rivera reached out and gently squeezed Mia's hand. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can have the biggest impact. You should be very proud of yourself. As the officers prepared to leave, they paused at the door. There's one more thing, Officer Johnson said. The woman, Elizabeth, she wasn't always homeless. She used to be a well-known member of this community, someone who helped a lot of people before she fell on hard times. Your kindness, Mia, it brought her full circle. It reminded her of the person she used to be. Mia nodded solemnly, feeling the weight of this information. As the door closed behind the officers, she turned to her parents, her eyes shining with a new understanding. Mommy, Daddy, can we do something to help other people like Elizabeth? James knelt down, pulling his daughter into a tight hug. Of course we can, Pumpkin, and we'll start right now. The rest of the day passed in a blur for Mia. At school, she found it hard to concentrate on her lessons, her mind constantly drifting back to Elizabeth and the note she had written. During recess, she sat alone on a swing, gently rocking back and forth as she thought about how a simple act of kindness had made such a big difference. Her best friend, Lily, noticed Mia's unusual quietness and came to sit on the swing next to her. Are you okay, Mia? She asked, her freckled face creased with concern. You've been super quiet all day. Mia looked at her friend, wondering how to explain everything that had happened. Finally, she took a deep breath and told Lily about Elizabeth, the scarf, and the visit from the police officers. Lily listened with wide eyes, gasping and nodding at all the right moments. Wow, Mia, Lily said when the story was finished. That's amazing. You're like a real-life superhero or something. Mia shook her head, blushing. I'm not a superhero. I just did what anyone would do. No way, Lily insisted. Not everyone would give away their favorite scarf to a stranger. You're special, Mia. And I bet you made that lady's last day really happy. As they walked back to class, Mia felt a little lighter. Sharing the story with Lily had helped her process her emotions, and her friend's words made her feel proud of what she had done. That afternoon, as Mia's mother picked her up from school, she noticed a small crowd gathered around the notice board in the schoolyard. Curious, they went to see what was causing the commotion. There, pinned to the board, was a newspaper article with a bold headline, Local Girl's Act of Kindness Touches Hearts. Beneath it was a picture of Mia, taken at last year's school play, where she had starred as a sunflower. Mia's jaw dropped as she read the article. It told the story of her encounter with Elizabeth, praising her compassion and highlighting the impact of her simple act of kindness. The article went on to reveal more about Elizabeth's past, how she had once been a successful businesswoman who had donated generously to local charities before a series of misfortunes left her homeless. As they stood there, other parents and children began to notice Mia. Whispers spread through the crowd, and soon people were approaching her, patting her on the back and telling her how proud they were. You're an inspiration, Mia, Mrs. Rodriguez, her third-grade teacher, said with tears in her eyes. You've reminded us all of the power of kindness. Overwhelmed by the attention, Mia clung to her mother's hand. Tanya, sensing her daughter's discomfort, quickly ushered her to the car. As they drove home, Mia was unusually quiet, staring out the window at the familiar streets of their town. Are you okay, sweetie? Tanya asked, glancing at Mia in the rearview mirror. Mia nodded slowly. Yeah, I think so. It's just, I didn't do anything special, Mom. I just wanted to help someone who was cold. Tanya reached back to squeeze Mia's knee. That's exactly what makes it special, honey. You saw someone in need, and you helped without thinking twice. That's true kindness. When they got home, they found James in the living room, surrounded by stacks of papers and his laptop open on the coffee table. He looked up as they entered, his face breaking into a wide smile. There's my little hero, he exclaimed, scooping Mia up in a big hug. How are you feeling, Pumpkin? Mia shrugged, burying her face in her father's shoulder. Okay, I guess. Everyone at school was making a big fuss. James set her down gently, kneeling to look her in the eye. I know it might feel overwhelming, but what you did was truly special. And look, he gestured to the papers around him. It's inspired me to do something too. Curious, Mia peered at the papers. She recognized some of them as forms from her father's work at the community center. What are you doing, Daddy? James's eyes sparkled with excitement. Well, after the officers left this morning, I couldn't stop thinking about Elizabeth and how many others like her might be out there in our town. So, I've been working on a proposal for a new program at the community center, a shelter and support system for people experiencing homelessness. Tanya gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. James, that's wonderful. Mia looked between her parents, a smile slowly spreading across her face. Really? We're going to help more people like Elizabeth? James nodded, pulling both Mia and Tanya into a group hug. That's right, Pumpkin. And it's all because of you. Your kindness didn't just help Elizabeth. It's going to help a lot of people. As the family embraced, there was another knock at the door. This time, when Tanya opened it, they found Mr. Garrett, the town mayor, standing on their porch. He was a tall man with a round belly and a kind face, known for his booming laugh and love of community events. Good evening, Thompsons, he said, his voice warm and friendly. I hope I'm not interrupting, but I wanted to speak with young Mia here. Mia peeked out from behind her father, suddenly shy in the presence of such an important person. Mr. Garrett knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level. Hello, Mia, he said gently. I've heard about what you did for Elizabeth, and I wanted to come thank you personally. Your kindness has touched a lot of hearts in our town. Mia nodded, not sure what to say. Mr. Garrett continued. I also wanted to let you know that because of your actions, we've decided to do something special. We're going to create a memorial for Elizabeth in the town square, to honor her memory and to remind everyone of the importance of kindness and community. Mia's eyes widened. A memorial? Like a statue? Mr. Garrett chuckled. Well, not quite a statue. We were thinking more of a beautiful bench, with a plaque telling Elizabeth's story and how a little girl's kindness made such a big difference. And, he added with a twinkle in his eye, we were hoping you might help us design it. Mia looked up at her parents, who nodded encouragingly. I'd like that, she said softly. As Mr. Garrett left, promising to be in touch about the memorial plans, Mia felt a strange mix of emotions. She was sad about Elizabeth, proud of what she had done, and excited about the chance to help even more people. But most of all, she felt a warmth in her heart, like the magic of her grandmother's scarf had somehow grown to encompass the whole town. That night, as Tanya tucked Mia into bed, she noticed her daughter seemed lost in thought. What's on your mind, sweetie? She asked, smoothing Mia's curls away from her face. Mia was quiet for a moment, then said, Mom, do you think Elizabeth knew how much people cared about her? Before she died? Tanya sat on the edge of the bed, taking Mia's small hand in hers. I don't know, honey. Sometimes when people are going through hard times, they feel very alone. But I do know that your kindness reminded her that she mattered. And that's a very powerful thing. Mia nodded, her eyes growing heavy with sleep. I wish I could have done more for her. Oh, Mia, Tanya said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. You did something amazing. You showed her love when she needed it most. And now, because of you, Elizabeth's memory will live on, Tanya continued softly. Your kindness has inspired the whole town to be more compassionate. That's a beautiful legacy for Elizabeth, and for you too. Mia yawned, snuggling deeper into her blankets. I'm glad, she murmured, her eyes fluttering closed. I hope Elizabeth is warm and happy now, wherever she is. As Mia drifted off to sleep, Tanya sat there for a moment, marveling at her daughter's pure heart. She gently tucked the blankets around Mia and quietly left the room, turning off the light as she went. Downstairs, she found James still at work on his proposal, his brow furrowed in concentration. He looked up as she entered the living room, a tired smile on his face. How's our little hero? He asked, stretching his arms above his head. Tanya sank onto the couch beside him, leaning her head on his shoulder. Asleep, finally. She's been through so much today, James. I worry about how all this attention might affect her. James wrapped an arm around his wife, pulling her close. I know what you mean. It's a lot for anyone to handle, let alone an 8-year-old. But Mia's strong, and she has a good head on her shoulders. I think she'll be okay. Tanya nodded, her eyes falling on the scattered papers of James's proposal. Tell me more about this shelter idea of yours, she said, picking up one of the sheets. James's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. Well, I've been thinking about how we can create a comprehensive support system for people experiencing homelessness in our town. Not just a place to sleep, but resources to help them get back on their feet. Job training, mental health support, addiction recovery programs. A real chance at a fresh start. As James continued to explain his vision, Tanya felt a swell of pride. This was why she had fallen in love with him all those years ago. His passion for helping others, his drive to make the world a better place. It was clear where Mia got her compassionate spirit from. It sounds wonderful, James, she said when he finished. But it's going to be a lot of work. Are you sure we can pull this off? James took her hand, squeezing it gently. I think we have to try. After what happened with Elizabeth, after seeing how one small act of kindness from our daughter could have such a big impact, well, it made me realize that we all have the power to make a difference. We just have to be brave enough to try. Tanya leaned in, kissing him softly. You're right, and we'll do it together, as a family. As they sat there, planning and dreaming of ways to help their community, neither of them noticed the soft padding of little feet on the stairs. Mia stood in the shadows of the hallway, listening to her parents talk. A warm feeling spread through her chest as she realized that her simple act of giving away her scarf had set something big in motion. She thought about Elizabeth, imagining her wrapped in the colorful scarf, feeling warm and loved in her final moments. And she thought about all the other people out there who might need help, who might just need someone to see them and show them kindness. Quietly, Mia crept back up to her room. She pulled out her art supplies and a large sheet of paper, and by the light of her bedside lamp, she began to draw. Her crayon moved across the paper, bringing to life her vision for Elizabeth's memorial bench. It would be colorful and welcoming, just like her scarf. And on it, she would write words that she hoped would inspire others to be kind. A little kindness can warm the world. As Mia worked on her drawing, the events of the day replayed in her mind. She thought about the police officers and their kind words, about Mr. Garrett and his proposal for the memorial, about her parents and their plans to help even more people. And she thought about Elizabeth, a woman she had only met for a moment, but who had changed her life in such a big way. Mia realized that even though Elizabeth was gone, her story wasn't over. It was just beginning, really, because now, Elizabeth's memory would live on through the kindness she had inspired in others. And Mia promised herself that she would keep that kindness alive, no matter what. As the first light of dawn began to peek through her curtains, Mia finally put down her crayons. She looked at her drawing with tired but satisfied eyes. It wasn't perfect, but it was full of heart, just like her act of kindness had been. Yawning, she crawled back into bed, clutching her drawing to her chest. As she drifted off to sleep, she whispered a quiet promise to herself and to Elizabeth. I'll keep spreading warmth, just like my magic scarf. I promise. And in that moment, as Mia fell asleep with dreams of kindness and hope swirling in her mind, the magic of her simple act continued to ripple outward, touching hearts and changing lives in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The next morning, as the sun rose over the sleepy town of Willowbrook, there was a palpable sense of change in the air. News of Mia's kindness and Elizabeth's story had spread like wildfire, igniting a spark of compassion in the hearts of the townspeople. At the local diner, regulars gathered over steaming cups of coffee, discussing the newspaper article and sharing their own memories of Elizabeth from before she fell on hard times. I remember when she used to run that big marketing firm downtown, old Mr. Jenkins mused, stirring sugar into his coffee. Always had a kind word for everyone, even when she was rushed off her feet. Sally, the waitress, nodded as she refilled his cup. And those Christmas parties she used to throw for the kids at the orphanage. No one's done anything like that since she disappeared. The bell above the diner door jingled as Mayor Garrett walked in, his usual jovial smile replaced by a look of determination. He nodded to the regulars as he made his way to the counter. "Morning, folks," he said, sliding onto a stool. "I hope you've all heard about what happened yesterday. Little Mia Thompson's act of kindness has given us all a wake-up call, I think." There were murmurs of agreement from around the diner. Mayor Garrett continued, I've called an emergency town council meeting for this afternoon. I think it's high time we took a good, hard look at how we're treating the less fortunate in our community." As the mayor spoke, the diner door opened again, and in walked James Thompson, Mia's father. The room fell silent for a moment, then erupted in applause. James looked around, startled, as people came up to pat him on the back and shake his hand. "You must be so proud of your little girl, Mrs. Harrington," their neighbor said warmly. "She's taught us all a valuable lesson." James smiled, a mix of pride and humility on his face. "Thank you," he said. "Mia's kindness has inspired us all. In fact, that's why I'm here." He turned to Mayor Garrett. "Mr. Mayor, I have a proposal I'd like to present at the council meeting this afternoon. It's about creating a comprehensive support system for the homeless in our town." Mayor Garrett's eyes lit up. "That sounds like exactly what we need, James. I look forward to hearing your ideas." As James and the mayor huddled together, discussing the upcoming meeting, the atmosphere in the diner was electric with possibility. It seemed that Mia's small act of kindness had awakened something in the town of Willowbrook, a renewed sense of community, a desire to help those in need, and a recognition of the power of compassion. Meanwhile, at Willowbrook Elementary School, Mia was experiencing her own kind of awakening. As she walked into her classroom, clutching her drawing of the memorial bench, she was met with a round of applause from her classmates. Mia blushed, not used to being the center of attention. "3 cheers for Mia," shouted Tommy, a boy who usually spent more time making paper airplanes than paying attention in class. "Hip hip hooray!" The class joined in, their voices ringing out in the hallway. Mia's blush deepened, and she quickly made her way to her seat, trying to shrink into it. Mrs. Rodriguez quieted the class down, but her eyes were shining as she looked at Mia. "We're all very proud of you, Mia," she said softly. "What you did was truly special." As the day went on, Mia found herself bombarded with questions from her classmates. What was the homeless lady like? Was she scared to talk to her? How did it feel to give away her favorite scarf? Mia answered as best she could, but she couldn't shake the feeling that her classmates were missing the point. It wasn't about her being brave or special. It was about seeing someone in need and helping them. It was about kindness, pure and simple. During art class, as the other kids worked on their projects, Mia approached Mrs. Rodriguez's desk. "Mrs. Rodriguez," she said hesitantly, "I have an idea." Her teacher looked up from her grading, smiling warmly. "What is it, Mia?" Mia took a deep breath and unrolled her drawing of the memorial bench. "I was thinking maybe we could do something as a class to help people like Elizabeth." Mrs. Rodriguez's eyes widened as she looked at Mia's drawing. "This is beautiful, Mia," she said softly. Then she looked up, a spark of inspiration in her eyes. "And I think you're onto something. Why don't you share your idea with the class?" Nervously, Mia stood at the front of the room, her drawing clutched in her hands. As she explained her idea for the class to work together to create care packages for the homeless in their town, she saw the same spark of inspiration light up in her classmates' eyes. "We could put warm socks in them," exclaimed Lily. "And granola bars," added Jake. "My mom makes really good soup," said Sarah shyly. "Maybe she could make some for the packages?" As the ideas flowed, Mia felt a warm glow in her chest. This was what it was all about, not just one person being kind, but everyone working together to make a difference. While Mia's class buzzed with excitement over their new project, across town at the community center, James Thompson stood before the town council, his heart pounding but his voice steady as he presented his proposal. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "yesterday my daughter Mia taught us all a valuable lesson about the power of kindness. Today, I'm here to propose a way for us to take that lesson and turn it into lasting change for our community." As James outlined his plan for a comprehensive homeless support system, including a shelter, job training programs, mental health support, and more, he could see the council members leaning forward in their seats, their faces a mix of interest and hope. When he finished, there was a moment of silence. Then Mayor Garrett stood up, a broad smile on his face. "James," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "I think I speak for all of us when I say that this is exactly what Willowbrook needs. You have our full support." The room erupted in applause, and James felt a weight lift from his shoulders. As council members crowded around him, offering congratulations and suggestions. He couldn't help but think of Mia and her simple act of kindness that had started it all. As the sun began to set on this extraordinary day in Willowbrook, the Thompson family gathered in their living room, each bursting with news to share. "Daddy, Daddy," Mia exclaimed as soon as James walked through the door. "Guess what? Our whole class is going to make care packages for homeless people, and Mrs. Rodriguez said we can use the classroom after school to work on them." James scooped Mia up in a big hug, spinning her around. "That's wonderful, Pumpkin. I'm so proud of you for inspiring your classmates." Tanya joined them, wrapping her arms around both James and Mia. "And how did your presentation go, honey?" she asked James. James's face broke into a wide grin. "They loved it. The council approved the proposal unanimously. We're going to be able to help so many people, Tanya." As the family celebrated their victories, big and small, there was a knock at the door. Tanya opened it to find Mr. Garrett standing there, along with several other town council members and a man none of them recognized. "Good evening, Thompsons," Mr. Garrett said, his eyes twinkling. "I hope we're not interrupting, but we have some news we thought you'd like to hear in person." The stranger stepped forward, extending his hand to James. "Mr. Thompson, my name is Robert Caldwell. I'm the CEO of Caldwell Industries." James shook his hand, a look of confusion on his face. "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Caldwell, but I'm afraid I don't understand." Mr. Caldwell smiled. "I read about what your daughter did for Elizabeth and about your proposal for the homeless support system. I was so moved that I've decided to make a substantial donation to fund the project. My company will also be partnering with your job training program to provide employment opportunities for those who complete it." The Thompsons stood in shock, unable to believe what they were hearing. Mia tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered, "what does that mean?" James knelt down, tears shining in his eyes. "It means, Pumpkin, that because of your kindness, we're going to be able to help even more people than we thought. You've started something amazing, Mia." As the adults discussed the details of the donation and partnership, Mia slipped away to her room. She climbed on her bed and looked out the window at the starry sky. Somewhere up there, she thought Elizabeth was watching, and Mia hoped she was proud of what her story had inspired. "I'll keep spreading warmth, Elizabeth," Mia whispered to the stars. "I promise." And as the town of Willowbrook settled in for the night, there was a sense of hope and possibility in the air. A little girl's act of kindness had sparked a movement, reminding everyone of the power they had to make a difference in the world. It was just the beginning of a new chapter for Willowbrook, a chapter filled with compassion, community, and the magic of a simple act of kindness. As the weeks passed, the town of Willowbrook buzzed with a newfound energy. The impact of Mia's simple act of kindness had spread like ripples in a pond, touching every corner of the community. The once quiet streets now hummed with activity as people came together to support James's homeless initiative and other community projects. On a crisp Saturday morning, Mia stood hand in hand with her parents at the edge of Willowbrook Park. A crowd had gathered for the unveiling of Elizabeth's memorial bench. The air was filled with a mixture of excitement and solemnity as Mayor Garrett stepped up to a small podium. "Friends and neighbors," he began, his voice carrying across the park, "we're here today to honor a woman who, in her final moments, reminded us all of the power of kindness. Elizabeth's story and the compassion shown by young Mia Thompson have sparked a change in our town that I believe will be felt for generations to come." As the mayor spoke, Mia's eyes were fixed on the bench, still covered by a large cloth. She squeezed her mother's hand tightly, a lump forming in her throat. This was all so much bigger than she had ever imagined. "And now," Mayor Garrett continued, "I'd like to invite Mia Thompson to help me unveil the memorial." Mia looked up at her parents, suddenly nervous. Tanya gave her a gentle push forward, smiling encouragingly. "Go on, sweetie. You can do it." With small, hesitant steps, Mia made her way to the front of the crowd. Mayor Garrett held out his hand, helping her up onto the small platform beside the bench. "Ready?" he asked softly. Mia nodded, reaching out to grasp the edge of the cloth. Together, they pulled, and the covering fell away to reveal a beautiful wooden bench. It was painted in vibrant colors, purples, golds, and blues that reminded Mia of her grandmother's scarf. In the center was a small plaque that read, "In memory of Elizabeth Parker, a reminder that kindness can warm the coldest of days, inspired by the compassion of Mia Thompson." Mia's eyes widened as she read the words. She hadn't known Elizabeth's last name until now, and seeing it there made her feel closer to the woman she had only met briefly. The crowd burst into applause, and Mia felt a warm hand on her shoulder. She looked up to see Mrs. Rodriguez, her teacher, smiling down at her with tears in her eyes. "You've done a wonderful thing, Mia," she said softly. As the crowd began to disperse, many stopping to admire the bench or to shake Mia's hand, she noticed a group of people she didn't recognize standing off to the side. They were dressed simply, some looking a bit worn and tired, but all watching the proceedings with interest. Curious, Mia tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, who are those people?" she whispered. James looked over and smiled. "Those are some of the first people we've been able to help through our new program," he explained. "They wanted to come and pay their respects to Elizabeth. Would you like to meet them?" Mia nodded, suddenly shy, but eager to talk to the people her father's program was helping. As they approached the group, a tall man with graying hair stepped forward. "You must be Mia," he said, his voice gravelly but kind. "I'm Tom. I just wanted to thank you for what you did. Your kindness, well, it's given a lot of us hope." Mia blushed, not sure what to say. "I'm glad I could help," she managed finally. Are you staying at my dad's shelter?" Tom nodded. "I am. And let me tell you, it's making a world of difference. I'm even starting a job next week, thanks to the training program." As Mia talked with Tom and the others, hearing their stories and seeing the impact of her father's work firsthand, she felt a warmth spreading through her chest. This was what kindness could do. It could change lives, give people hope, and bring a community together. Later that afternoon, as the Thompson family walked home from the park, Mia was uncharacteristically quiet. Tanya noticed her daughter's thoughtful expression and asked, "What's on your mind, sweetie?" Mia looked up, her eyes serious. "I was just thinking about all the people Dad's helping and about Elizabeth. It's good that we're doing all this, but it's sad that we didn't help Elizabeth sooner. Before she died." James and Tanya exchanged a look over Mia's head. James knelt down, bringing himself to Mia's eye level. "You're right, Pumpkin. We should have done more sooner. But that's why what we're doing now is so important. We're making sure that there are fewer people like Elizabeth who fall through the cracks." Mia nodded slowly, processing her father's words. I wish I could have known her better, known her story." Tanya squeezed Mia's hand. "I think I might have an idea about that. Why don't we do some research? Maybe we can learn more about Elizabeth's life and share her story with others. That way, we can help people understand why it's so important to help those in need." Mia's eyes lit up at the suggestion. "Could we really do that? Like, make a book about her or something?" James chuckled, ruffling Mia's hair. "That's a great idea, kiddo, and I bet a lot of people would be interested in reading it. Why don't we start working on it tomorrow?" As they continued their walk home, Mia's mind was buzzing with ideas for the book. She imagined telling Elizabeth's story, from her successful days as a businesswoman to her struggles on the streets. And maybe, just maybe, by sharing Elizabeth's story, they could inspire even more people to be kind and help others in need. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. While James worked tirelessly to get the homeless shelter and support programs up and running, Mia and Tanya threw themselves into researching Elizabeth's life. They spent hours at the local library, poring over old newspapers and public records. They interviewed people who had known Elizabeth in her better days, collecting stories and memories. With each piece of information they uncovered, Elizabeth became more than just a name on a bench. She became a real person with a rich history and a tragic fall from grace. One Saturday afternoon, as Mia and Tanya were sorting through their notes at the kitchen table, there was a knock at the door. James answered it to find Mr. Caldwell, the CEO who had donated to the homeless initiative, standing on their porch. "Mr. Caldwell," James said, surprised. "Please come in. What brings you here?" Mr. Caldwell stepped inside, smiling warmly at the family. "I hope I'm not interrupting, but I wanted to see how things were progressing with the program." And, he added, his eyes twinkling as he looked at Mia, "I heard a rumor that someone was working on a very special book project." Mia's eyes widened. "You know about our book?" Mr. Caldwell chuckled. Word travels fast in a small town like ours. And I think it's a wonderful idea. In fact, that's part of why I'm here. I'd like to offer my company's resources to help you publish the book when it's ready. Tanya Gusped. Mr. Caldwell, that's incredibly generous of you. But why? The CEO's face grew serious. Because I knew Elizabeth back in the day. We were colleagues, competitors sometimes, but always friends. When I heard what had happened to her, well, let's just say I felt I owed it to her memory to help in any way I could. As Mr. Caldwell shared his own memories of Elizabeth with the family, Mia felt the story they were crafting come to life even more. Elizabeth wasn't just a homeless woman or a successful businesswoman. She was a friend, a competitor, a complex person who had touched many lives. Over the next few months, the town of Willowbrook continued to change. The homeless shelter opened its doors, providing not just a place to sleep, but a range of services to help people get back on their feet. James's job training program, in partnership with Caldwell Industries and other local businesses, began to show results as participants found steady employment. Mia's class project to create care packages for the homeless had expanded, with other classes and even other schools in the district joining in. The local diners started a pay-it-forward program, where customers could buy meals in advance for those who couldn't afford them. And through it all, Mia and Tanya worked on their book, weaving together Elizabeth's story with the tale of how one small act of kindness had transformed an entire community. As winter turned to spring, the day finally came for the book launch. The event was held at the community center, which was packed with people eager to read The Scarf That Warmed a Town, Elizabeth's story. Mia stood nervously at the front of the room, clutching a copy of the book in her hands. She looked out at the sea of faces, her classmates, her parents, Mr. Caldwell, Mayor Garrett, and so many others who had become part of this journey. Hi everyone, she began, her voice shaky at first but growing stronger as she spoke. When I gave my scarf to Elizabeth that day, I never imagined all of this would happen. I just saw someone who was cold and wanted to help. But now I know that kindness is like a seed. If you plant it and nurture it, it can grow into something amazing. As Mia continued to speak, sharing some of the stories they had uncovered about Elizabeth's life, she saw tears in many eyes. But they weren't sad tears. They were tears of understanding, of empathy, of a community coming together to care for its own. After the launch, as people lined up to have their books signed, Mia noticed a woman hanging back, watching the proceedings with a wistful expression. She was well-dressed, but had a fragile look about her, as if she had been through a great deal. Curious, Mia made her way over to the woman. "Hi," she said softly. "Did you know Elizabeth?" The woman startled slightly, then gave Mia a sad smile. "You could say that. I'm her sister, Margaret." Mia's eyes widened. In all their research, they had never been able to track down any of Elizabeth's family members. Her sister? But why didn't you come forward before? Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "I was ashamed," she whispered. "I knew Elizabeth was struggling, but I didn't do enough to help her. When I heard what had happened, I couldn't bear to face anyone. But then I heard about this book, about what you had done, and I knew I had to come." Mia reached out and took Margaret's hand. "I'm sure Elizabeth knew you loved her," she said solemnly. "And I bet she'd be happy you're here now." Margaret squeezed Mia's hand, a look of wonder on her face. "You really are a remarkable young lady, aren't you? Elizabeth was right about you." Mia's brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" "After Elizabeth passed," Margaret explained, her voice thick with emotion, "I found a diary in her things. She wrote about you, about the little girl with the kind heart who gave her a scarf. She said you had reminded her of the good in the world, that you had given her hope in her final days." Tears sprang to Mia's eyes as she listened to Margaret's words. All this time, she had hoped that her small act of kindness had meant something to Elizabeth, but to hear it confirmed, it was overwhelming. As Margaret shared more about Elizabeth's life, filling in gaps in their knowledge and providing a deeper understanding of the woman they had come to know through their research, Mia felt a sense of completion. The story they had set out to tell was finally whole. Later that night, as the Thompson family sat in their living room, surrounded by copies of the book and basking in the glow of a successful launch, James raised his glass in a toast. To Elizabeth, he said solemnly, may her memory continue to inspire kindness in all of us. And to Mia, Tanya added, smiling at her daughter, for reminding us all of the power of a simple act of kindness. Mia blushed, but raised her glass of sparkling cider. And to everyone, she said, for helping to make Willowbrook a warmer place for everyone. As they clinked their glasses together, Mia felt a warmth in her heart that had nothing to do with the fire crackling in the fireplace. She thought about Elizabeth, about Margaret, about all the people whose lives had been touched by this journey. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that this was just the beginning. The story of the scarf that warmed a town had spread far beyond the borders of Willowbrook. News outlets picked up on the heartwarming tale, and soon Mia found herself being interviewed by reporters from all over the country. She always made sure to steer the conversation back to the importance of kindness and community support rather than focusing on herself. One particularly chilly morning in late autumn, almost a year after Mia had given her scarf to Elizabeth, the Thompson family received an unexpected visitor. As they sat around the breakfast table, there was a knock at the door. James answered it to find a tall, distinguished-looking man with salt and pepper hair standing on their porch. "Good morning," the man said, his voice warm but professional. "My name is Senator David Hartley. I was hoping I might have a word with your family." Surprised, James invited the senator in. As they gathered in the living room, Senator Hartley explained the reason for his visit. "I've been following your story," he said, looking at Mia with admiration. "The impact you've had on your community is truly remarkable. I'm here because I believe what you've done in Willowbrook could be a model for communities across the country." Mia's eyes widened. "Really?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. Senator Hartley nodded. "Really? I'm working on a bill to increase funding for homeless support programs nationwide, and I'd like to include elements of what you've done here as part of that legislation. With your permission, of course." As the senator outlined his proposal, which he was calling the Willowbrook Initiative, Mia felt a mix of excitement and disbelief. Could their little town story really help people all across the country? Over the next few months, Mia and her family worked closely with Senator Hartley and his team, sharing the details of their programs and the lessons they had learned along the way. Mia even had the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C. to speak before a congressional committee about the importance of compassion in addressing homelessness. Standing at the podium, looking out at the rows of serious faces, Mia felt a moment of nervousness. But then she remembered Elizabeth and all the people they had helped in Willowbrook, and she found her voice. "Homelessness isn't just about not having a place to live," she said, her clear voice ringing through the chamber. "It's about losing your place in the community, about feeling invisible and forgotten. What we've learned in Willowbrook is that by showing kindness, by really seeing people and valuing them, we can help them find their way back." As Mia continued to speak, she could see the legislators leaning forward in their seats, truly listening. And she knew that Elizabeth's story, their story, was touching hearts and changing minds. Back in Willowbrook, the community continued to flourish. The homeless shelter had expanded, now offering transitional housing and a wider range of support services. The job training program had become so successful that other towns were sending people to learn from their model. But perhaps the most significant change was in the way people treated each other. The spirit of kindness that had been sparked by Mia's simple act had taken root and grown. Neighbors looked out for each other more. Strangers smiled and chatted on the streets, and there was a palpable sense of warmth and community wherever you went. One day, as Mia walked home from school, she passed by Elizabeth's memorial bench in the park. She often stopped there to sit for a moment and reflect, but today she noticed someone else already sitting there, a young woman looking tired and a bit lost. Without hesitation, Mia approached the bench. "Hi," she said softly. "Is everything okay?" The woman looked up, startled. "Oh, I'm fine," she said quickly, but Mia could see the worry in her eyes. Mia sat down next to her. "I'm Mia," she said, "and it's okay if you're not fine. Sometimes people need help, and that's okay too." The woman's eyes filled with tears. I lost my job," she whispered. "I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't pay my rent, and I'm afraid I'll end up on the streets." Mia reached out and took the woman's hand. "You're not alone," she said firmly. "We have programs that can help you. Would you like me to show you where to go? The woman nodded, a glimmer of hope appearing in her eyes. As Mia led the woman, who introduced herself as Sarah, to the community center where her father's programs were headquartered, she couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. It was almost as if she was retracing the steps that had started with giving her scarf to Elizabeth. But this time, she had so much more to offer than just a piece of clothing. You know, Mia said as they walked, this bench where I found you? It's dedicated to a woman named Elizabeth. She taught me that sometimes all it takes is one small act of kindness to change someone's life. Sarah listened intently as Mia briefly recounted Elizabeth's story and how it had transformed their town. By the time they reached the community center, Sarah's eyes were shining with a mix of tears and hope. James was surprised to see Mia walk in with a stranger, but one look at his daughter's determined face told him all he needed to know. He greeted Sarah warmly and listened to her story with compassion. You've come to the right place, Sarah, James assured her. We have a program that can help you get back on your feet. Let's start by finding you a safe place to stay while we work on job placement. As James and his team worked with Sarah, Mia sat in a corner of the office, watching the process unfold. She marveled at how smoothly everything ran now, how many resources they had at their disposal to help people in need. It was a far cry from that cold day when all she had to offer was a scarf. Over the next few weeks, Mia checked in on Sarah's progress regularly. She was thrilled to learn that Sarah had been placed in a transitional housing unit and was excelling in a job training program for administrative assistants. One afternoon, as Mia was helping Sarah move into her new apartment, a small but cozy place she could now afford thanks to her new job, Sarah turned to her with tears in her eyes. Mia, she said, her voice choked with emotion, I don't know how to thank you. If you hadn't stopped to talk to me that day on the bench, I don't know where I'd be now. Mia smiled, remembering Elizabeth. You don't have to thank me, she said softly. Just promise that when you're back on your feet, you'll find a way to help someone else. That's how we keep the kindness going. Sarah nodded solemnly, pulling Mia into a tight hug. I promise, she whispered. As spring turned to summer, news came that the Willowbrook Initiative had passed in Congress. Senator Hartley called the Thompson family personally to share the good news. This is going to change lives all across the country, he said, his voice filled with excitement. And it all started with a little girl and her scarf. Mia, you should be very proud. The town of Willowbrook decided to celebrate this achievement with a community-wide kindness festival. The main street was closed off to traffic, filled instead with booths showcasing various community initiatives and local businesses that had joined in the spirit of giving back. Mia wandered through the festival, marveling at how much had changed in just over a year. She stopped at a booth where her classmates were collecting donations for care packages, remembering how it had all started with their small class project. As she helped sort through the donations, she overheard a conversation that made her pause. Did you hear? One woman was saying to another. The Caldwell Foundation is starting a scholarship program for homeless youth. They're calling it the Elizabeth Parker Memorial Scholarship. Mia's heart swelled at the news. Elizabeth's legacy was continuing to grow and touch lives in ways she could never have imagined. As the day wore on, Mia found herself drawn back to Elizabeth's memorial bench. She sat down, running her hand over the smooth, sun-warmed wood, tracing the letters of Elizabeth's name with her fingers. I wish you could see all of this, she said softly, imagining Elizabeth sitting beside her. I wish you could know how many lives you've touched. I think she knows, came a voice from behind her. Mia turned to see Margaret, Elizabeth's sister, standing there with a gentle smile on her face. Margaret sat down next to Mia, both of them gazing out at the festival happening around them. You know, Margaret said, Elizabeth always believed that people were inherently good, that they just needed a reminder sometimes. I think you've given the whole world that reminder, Mia. As they sat in comfortable silence, Mia noticed a group of people gathering nearby. She recognized some of them from her father's programs, people who had been helped and were now volunteering to help others. They were setting up what looked like a large bulletin board. Curious, Mia and Margaret walked over to investigate. The board was titled Ripples of Kindness and was covered in colorful post-it notes. What's this? Mia asked one of the volunteers. It's a kindness chain, the woman explained. People write down acts of kindness they've experienced or performed, and we connect them to show how one kind act can lead to another. Mia's eyes widened as she read some of the notes. Someone paid for my groceries when I was short on cash. I used the money I saved to buy school supplies for a struggling family. A stranger helped me change a flat tire. I was inspired to volunteer at a local nursing home. The community center helped me find a job. Now I'm mentoring at-risk youth. As Mia read note after note, she felt a lump form in her throat. This was it. This was the magic of kindness made visible. Each small act creating a ripple that touched countless lives. Would you like to add a note, Mia? Margaret asked gently. Mia nodded, taking a pink post-it note and a pen. She thought for a moment, then wrote, I gave a scarf to a homeless woman named Elizabeth. She taught me that kindness can change the world. As she stuck her note to the board, connecting it to several others, Mia felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was the same feeling she'd had when she'd given Elizabeth her scarf. A mixture of joy, love, and a deep satisfaction of knowing she'd made a difference. The festival continued into the evening, ending with a candlelight vigil at Elizabeth's bench. As Mia stood there, surrounded by her family, friends, and what felt like the entire town, she listened to people share stories of how their lives had been touched by the wave of kindness that had swept through Willowbrook. Mayor Garrett stepped forward, holding his candle high. A year ago, he said, his voice carrying across the crowd, we were a town like any other. We had our strengths and our weaknesses, our triumphs and our struggles. But then a remarkable thing happened. A little girl saw someone in need and decided to help. That simple act of kindness sparked a change in all of us. He turned to Mia, his eyes shining in the candlelight. Mia Thompson reminded us of the power we all have to make a difference. She showed us that kindness isn't just a nice idea. It's a force that can transform communities and change lives. As the mayor continued to speak, Mia felt her father's hand on her shoulder. She looked up to see both her parents smiling down at her, their eyes filled with pride and love. And now, Mayor Garrett concluded, that spark of kindness that started here in Willowbrook is spreading across the nation. The Willowbrook Initiative will help communities everywhere create the kind of support systems we've built here. But more than that, I hope it will inspire people everywhere to open their hearts, to see those in need around them, and to reach out with kindness. A chorus of "Hear, hear" rose from the crowd, along with applause. Mia blushed, still not entirely comfortable with being the center of attention, but feeling proud of what they had all accomplished together. As the vigil came to an end and people began to disperse, Mia found herself once again sitting on Elizabeth's bench. She closed her eyes, thinking about everything that had happened since that cold day when she'd given away her scarf. She thought about Sarah, now thriving in her new job and apartment. She thought about Tom and the others from her father's program, many of whom were now helping newcomers find their footing. She thought about her classmates and their ongoing projects to help the community. But mostly, she thought about Elizabeth. In her mind's eye, she could see her, wrapped in the colorful scarf, smiling down at her from wherever she was now. "We did it, Elizabeth," Mia whispered. "We made the world a little bit warmer." As if in response, a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, carrying with it the scent of blooming flowers. Mia smiled, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. She knew that there was still much work to be done. The Willowbrook Initiative would need support to reach its full potential. There would always be people in need of help, always be opportunities to spread kindness. But now Mia understood something fundamental. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, had the power to change lives. As she stood up from the bench, ready to join her family and head home, Mia made a silent promise to herself and to Elizabeth's memory. She would continue to spread warmth and kindness wherever she went. She would help others see the power they had to make a difference. And she would always remember that sometimes the simplest acts of compassion could spark the most profound changes. With one last look at the bench, Mia turned and walked towards her waiting family, her heart full of hope for the future. The story of the scarf that warmed a town had become so much more. It was now the story of how kindness could warm the world, one heart at a time. And as Mia Thompson, the little girl with the big heart, walked hand in hand with her parents under the starry sky, She knew that this was not the end of the story, but just the beginning of a lifetime dedicated to spreading warmth and kindness to all those in need. What would you have done if you were in Mia's position and saw someone shivering in the cold? Would you have offered your scarf, or would you have hesitated? If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to my channel. I put a lot of time and effort into crafting these meaningful narratives, and your support truly means the world to me. Thank you for being a part of this journey,